In anticipation of the upcoming release of a new Sister Wives episode, many fans witnessed one of the Brown family's most embarrassing reunions. When Kody, Robyn, Meri, and Janelle arrive at their Coyote Pass property, this encounter takes place. In the video, Kody's ex-wives can be seen entering the meeting hoping for at least some conversation. But as time goes on, they come to the conclusion that that day will never come. Both Robyn and Kody gave them horrible body language and quiet instead. Even though everyone came in to finish the long-overdue Coyote Pass paperwork, the event felt much more intimate than a straightforward signing. However, why did the exchange feel so chilly? And what, in contrast to their previous arguments, made this instance unique? To learn more, continue reading. The Coyote Pass storyline has been brought up again and time again by the Sister Wives showrunners. Additionally, this last meeting demonstrates how the Brown family has grown apart over time. In 2018, when they still had a single vision for their multiple families, the Browns bought the property in Arizona. They intended to construct a sizable family complex with separate plots for Kody, his 4 wives, and their 18 offspring. They would all have been able to stay close and together, despite having different plots. Family-friendly games, however, as the Browns' connections soured, so did the desire to live nearby. In 2021, Christine was the first to depart, and in 2022, Janelle and Meri followed. Viewers seen Janelle settle into her new life in North Carolina earlier this season after she and her son-in-law, Caleb Brush, and daughter Maddie moved to a 156-acre farm. Before the Browns sold the property for $1.5 million in April, this episode was shot. When Kody met with Meri and Janelle on the most recent episode, there was a noticeable tension. To sign the paperwork to sell Coyote Pass, they assembled. They all stared at the realtor and didn't say hello to one another. Because Kody wouldn't acknowledge them, Janelle subsequently claimed that she and Meri stood there like props. She also expressed gratitude to Meri for being at her side, saying that being by herself would have made things even more awkward. When the 4 former family members got together, Meri too felt invisible. She claimed that she was constantly searching for a greeting from Robyn and Kody. In a confessional, she expressed her desire to attract Robyn's attention. Meri asserted, however, that neither of them actually said hello or goodbye. However, Robyn claimed that Meri never turned to face her and that she was just giving Meri some room. Robyn also acknowledged in her confessional that she doesn't endorse fakeness and didn't feel the need to act as though nothing was wrong. Services for streaming TV online similar to his wife, Kody claimed Robyn detested girl games. The Coyote Pass conflict was messy from the start, he said. In the end, he was relieved that the paperwork would be signed, bringing that chapter to an end. Despite their strained connections, Meri and Janelle both felt that the entire exchange felt frigid. They thought that Kody and Robyn had just lost the ability to engage in normal conversation with them. Sister Wives has depicted the delicate and frequently disastrous balance of Kody Brown's large multifamily family for more than 10 years. Fans witnessed the Browns construct homes together, celebrate births, battle jealousy, and eventually disintegrate, piece by piece. Eventually, emotional neglect, partiality, and unfulfilled expectations caused what had started out as an apparently functional, albeit messy, polygamous family to fall apart. Now the moment that supporters had never anticipated has finally come. The unofficial end of the Brown family as the world knew it was marked with a final, excruciatingly unpleasant encounter between Kody Brown, Robyn Brown, Meri Brown, and Janelle Brown. Tension permeated the air. The words were heavy, uncertain, and piercing. The feelings were raw. And it seemed like an era was coming to an end every second. It was the final time the original members of the Brown family gathered to face the remains of their botched experiment, so it wasn't simply another family conversation. The scene, a room rich in history instead of hope. The conference was held in a neutral setting, away from sentimental places like their homes. That decision says it all. No reassuring surrounds to diffuse the strain, no memories to lighten the situation. It was chilly in the room. As though someone intended them to experience a therapeutic session, the chairs were set up in a rigid circle. And they might have been. Kody's jittery hand motion through his hair, which he utilized when faced with unpleasant realities, caught fans' attention as soon as he entered. Robyn remained near him, her face guarded and nervous. Meri came in next, standing tall yet taut, like a woman attempting to keep her dignity while preparing for a blow. Last in line was Janelle, who was composed and steady despite the commotion. With the serene assurance of someone who has long since checked out emotionally, she took a seat. It had all the elements of a decisive battle. Unresolved pain, loose ends, and a need for closure were the reasons behind their meeting. Reconciliation was not the purpose of this conference. That ship sailed years ago. It has to do with closure. Clarity was still needed on the financial entanglements from the Coyote Pass property. Even though they couldn't be cured, emotional scars begged to be addressed. Additionally, final decisions were needed for logistical arrangements, such as shared children or the business of appearing on Sister Wives. However, a deeper force forced them inside that room. They had to confront the reality. They had to assess their level of drift. They had to see their plural marital unit come to an official end. Even more agonizingly, they had to hear what each of them had been suppressing for years. First words, it hurt to be silent so loudly. Nobody said anything after they had all sat down. Even the most seasoned Sister Wives fans found the prolonged quiet unsettling. Kody cleared his throat at last. "Well, thank you all for being willing to come," he added in a strained voice. It wasn't appreciation. It was a duty. Meri gave a rigid nod. Janelle did nothing but fold her arms. Robyn held onto Kody's hand tightly. They had hardly spoken a word, and the awkwardness was oppressive. Janelle takes the lead. Done, calm and straightforward. Since no one else would take the lead, Janelle, who was usually the most pragmatic of the wives, took over. She stated bluntly, "I think we should start with the property. We must have a tidy departure. No misunderstanding. No unfinished business." Although she spoke in a controlled tone, it was obvious that she wanted to leave. Completely, formally, and forever. Kody tensed up. Janelle's independence had always been a problem for him, especially after she quit putting up with his changing expectations. He retorted defensively, "Well, I don't want anyone to think I'm abandoning our agreements." Janelle arched an eyebrow. "Kody, nobody believes that," she remarked. "All we want is clarity." It was a straightforward transaction, yet it carried decades' worth of weight. Meri's turn. A lifetime of ignored boils more than Meri. The woman whose emotional malnourishment had been chronicled for years came next. Without fear, without anticipation, and without the goal of bringing about any change, this was her time to tell her truth. "I need to say something before we discuss business," she added quietly. Kody stiffened. Robyn's gaze was fixed on the ground. Janelle gave Meri a silent nod of support. Meri took a trembling breath. "I tried to be a part of something that didn't want me back for a long time. I continued to hope for cooperation, honesty, and effort. When I shouldn't have, I stayed, and I believe I need you to comprehend the agony of that." Meri held up a hand as Kody opened his mouth. "No, please, let me finish." Her voice was even more forceful since she didn't raise it. "I no longer feel angry. Simply put, I'm done pretending. Before we end this chapter, I needed something to be acknowledged." There was a heavy quiet again in the room. For the first time, Meri spoke without worrying about being disregarded, and it struck a chord. Breaking down, Robyn says, "I thought we could hold on." Robyn was the one who entered the meeting with the intention of making repairs. Long after it became evident that the foundation had irreparably crumbled, she clung to the hope that the family would remain together. And she finally faced reality during that last meeting. She stopped and stated, "I never wanted this. I always believed that we could resolve it, that we might reunite, that it wasn't quite finished." Seeking solace she had once thought possible, she turned to the other ladies, but none of them was able to provide it. No more. Janelle seems compassionate but unfazed. Meri appeared worn out. Christine's absence served as a symbolic reminder that the family was already irreparably broken. The truth remained the same despite Robyn's weeping. They just made it public. Kody finally breaks. An uncommon view of responsibility for years, spectators saw Kody use his own mental pain as an excuse, diversion, and reframing for every family dispute. However, something changed during this meeting. Kody's voice became quieter after hearing the women speak, particularly Meri, less combative, more human. He looked at his hands and added, "I know I made mistakes. I am aware that I wasn't the husband you required. I admit that I let the family to disintegrate." Robyn gave him an arm squeeze. He gave a headshake. "No, Robyn, I must share it with them." Kody admitted his shortcomings without attempting to justify them for the first time in a long time. "Perhaps I clung too firmly to exert control. Perhaps I missed your wants. Perhaps I wasn't fair. I apologize as well." Erasing years of dysfunction was insufficient. However, it was sufficient to shut the door. The last second. A farewell without a hug. No one got up fast as the meeting came to an end. Nobody hurried to open the door. It seemed like the conclusion of a protracted, terrible book that had been read for far too long. Silent acknowledgments. and the unsaid realization that this was really the end. Tall, determined, and walking steadily, Meri was the first to leave. Calm, self-sufficient, and unrestrained, Janelle trailed behind. Robyn stayed, wiping away tears she could no longer contain. And long after the crowd had cleared, Kody remained sitting, gazing at the circle of chairs where his once large family had finally fallen apart. The implications for the Brown family of this: not only did this gathering represent closure, but it also signaled the formal disintegration of the numerous marriage framework that had defined the family for many years. Because Janelle has opted for emotional independence and separation, the consequences are irreparable. Meri has decided to value herself. Christine's life outside the family has already been reconstructed. Robyn is left holding onto a vanished dream. Kody must confront a future devoid of the persona he has clung to for 3 decades, not with fireworks, but with a silent, difficult, but necessary farewell. An era is coming to an end. A concluding remark: the Brown family's marriages, births, heartbreaks, and mayhem have all been witnessed by fans. However, this last meeting is one of the most poignant parts to date. It wasn't traumatic, loud, or filled with yelling.